libraries. Save our 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 libraries. I love the library.
It wasn't bad. It was really traumatic, wasn't it?
Hello everyone, my name's Heidi Francis. I was born and raised in Birmingham. My mum took me to King's Standing. I was born the other side of Birmingham, and King's Standing Library was my childhood library. And it was mainly used because we couldn't afford books. And it was something that my mum would take as like a break in her day, I guess, to get her out of the house with me. That was free. And I've written poetry all of my life. And I have a book about grief. And what I did was I've gone through this book of poems, and I've found poetry that speaks about the origin of books, which is trees. So I have a couple of poems about trees and loss, and then another one that's quite political but short. And I hope you enjoy them. The earth is a better womb. In the bloody mud, an ovate belly acorn opens, its labour already active. The start of the split, a cream nut labour of root for a twin of crowns too great to keep dormant. Then splitting like a headache, pushing and pushing off the loath bark skull to unwind the spinal cord petiole, uncurling into Tadasana to reach a congruence of green hands out of the grave, giving itself space to grieve, stemmed to wave the sun. Come photosynthesize these palms with rays to stretch exilum girth, to make a shade, to make work for chainsaws and man-birds. So Tadasana is when we reach our hands in the sky. Exilum girth is the name of a trunk of a tree. And it's about the kind of growing of a tree from acorn into life.
People assemble, artists assemble. Birmingham assembles as the webs that bond us together have been cut, slashed, erased as we look back on the past that should forever had last. It should be a whimsical quest to paint this city more than second best. Silver streams down our cheeks with each and every step, and knees of ours are tied with each and every stride, turning our miles to inches and our leaps to crashes. Because how can we inspire with drenched eyelashes? People assemble, teachers assemble. Birmingham assembles as how can we promise the saplings of this city a world full of hope and dreams as iron barbs shut on all our imaginings? How can they grow and learn as this vacant page turns into crumbles of dust, untouched by the most innocent of this earth? Why encourage barriers for those who yearn to divulge the beauty of this hearth? We rise in Technicolor, voicing those working class. Together we sing, don't let this sapphire city waste away into dirty, broken, untrodden glass. People assemble, humans assemble. In Birmingham, we assemble. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you. And for you for coming here today. Thank you all.
Hiya! Hello. Hiya! Are you Nargis? Thank you for waiting patiently for us. Thank you. Yeah, we'll get everybody arrived.
I've got just a couple of extracts from the book. I'm not reading from the book because I tend to self-edit. So I've edited some of the extracts and so I'm reading, but it's directly from the book. It's really a story about myself and my husband and how we met and how we got together because we're from two different cultures. We're two different ages as well, so we had a few challenges and it's loosely based on how we got together. We've been together 27 years now, we have 2 children, and I just thought it would be an interesting story to write. It was quite a therapeutic journey for myself, so I'm glad that I've been called to support the library events. And I'm just here to share some of my work and hopefully you all enjoy it.
Save our libraries. 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 Save our libraries.
It's the baby shower. Yes, the kids know.
So I'm sort of living proof of the power of libraries. I'm an author, a journalist, a producer, I do all sorts of things. But it didn't used to be the case that I had a future like that ahead of me. I grew up on a council estate not too far from here. And when I was 12 years old, following the death of my father, I stopped going to school for very good reasons. And that's partly what my book is about. So I want to read a couple of pages about what it was like for me as a 12, 13-year-old girl with no access to education, no resources in the 1980s on a council estate. But I did have a library card. So the lead up to this section is my mother and I had gone and bought an electronic typewriter on hire purchase, which was, credit basically, because I'd said to her, I want to be a writer. And that was the only way that she knew to support me and invest in that. The new electronic typewriter usually lived in its mottled grey case. But some afternoons we would set it up on the big table and she would help me improve my touch typing while we worked on stories and poems. Every minute we spent on those machines had a cost. I don't believe we properly understood the nuances of buying on credit, and certainly not how compound interest worked. But as long as we were making the minimum payments at the post office every month, it didn't feel like debt. It never does until you miss a payment and a red bill arrives. Then anxiety sets in, which turns into a psychological burden that can overwhelm. It seems irresponsible for a widow to get into debt, but she was providing for me as best as she could, while I refused to attend school regularly. We didn't spend money on new clothes or trainers or the other things parents bought their kids. We spent money on my future. I don't condone buying on credit, and I go as far as condemning the sometimes exploitative sales tactics and the lack of clear information for the financially illiterate. But I also think it's not right that a working class family can't access the same culture and educational tools as the middle class families. When I was growing up, under Margaret Thatcher, you could get a free TV from the council because TV was on an essentials list. Telephones weren't, because those were a luxury easily replaced by letters. If you were too poor to afford a TV, even the government was sympathetic. While my preference was to spend my days on the computer or reading, when the weather was good, I walked, usually to the library. Explored, really, as I spent the time imagining I was a spy or Frodo Baggins. I'd spend the whole day walking around the estate and its wider areas, roaming for miles. No one knew where I was. My mum believed I was at school. I was told by teachers, by social services, by family and church, you must go here, to this building for these hours. You must do this and you must do that. But when I wandered by myself around the estate, to the library, or even further, my world truly opened up. I could go anywhere, do anything. I was in a tug of war between my education and my freedom. And freedom won, even if that meant I was locking myself out of so much. Alone with my thoughts, I'd make up stories or imaginary conversations. I construct elaborate arguments for both sides, debating with myself, not about anything important. I was largely ignorant of the news beyond the BBC Evening Bulletin. But I developed a huge sense of injustice and would rant about the ozone layer. I won a Blue Peter badge for a drawing of global destruction. Or nuclear weapons. I wrote a terrible poem that, alas, did not survive the blast. My mom was distressed by what she called my crusades and didn't know how to help me channel my furious sense of unfairness and helplessness. My crusades were the product of having to navigate a system I had had no hand in designing. I was trying to change things. Fortunately, I was a reader. Without my library cards, I don't know what I'd have done with that aggressive sense of injustice.